Okay, in Chapter 5, Section 1, we're going to look at how we can identify when a chemical reaction happens. So there are many different ways where we can tell if something is happening to know that bonds have been broken or new bonds have been formed. The evidence is going to be 5 different ways. The first one is when gas is produced. So you notice on the metal ribbon in the first test tube, there's really nothing happening. But as you look at the second and third test tube in that picture, more and more bubbles are forming on there. What's happening is oxygen from the water is reacting with the magnesium metal, that's what that ribbon of metal is, to create magnesium oxide. As more and more of the magnesium is broken down into magnesium oxide, you're going to end up with a powder on the bottom. In our second picture, you see a color change. We start with a green color and then it changes to an orange color, indicating that something happened within that solution. Our third one is called a precipitate, and that is when two solutions are mixed, and at the bottom you'll see particles. So what I'm showing you is a blue liquid and a red liquid. They combine together to make a purple liquid, but at the bottom there's a bunch of blue powdered stuff. That blue at the bottom would be called a precipitate. Now the fourth way is there's 2 ways with temperature and energy. So temperature and energy are 4 and 5, and we identify these together as an exothermic reaction where the energy is released from the reaction that's happening and the temperature gets warmer. So that's like those hot hands you'll use if you go skiing or outside. You kind of crumple them or break them up. The reaction inside that little fabric pouch is heating up, giving off energy from the reaction so that your hands can stay warm. The fifth one would be an endothermic reaction where the energy is taken into the reaction to keep it going, and so all that energy is pulled into the reaction, leaving the outside temperature to feel cooler. That's like those instant cold packs. If you've ever shook them up or slammed them down on a sidewalk or crunched them up to get that cold going, that's an endothermic reaction. Now, chemical reactions happen on a small scale, and we can't always see them happening. You have to remember that's when chemical bonds break or when new bonds form. Chemical bonds also determine whether or not a chemical reaction will occur in a specific set of circumstances, meaning everything we write out on paper does not actually always happen in real life. Sometimes there's not enough energy there to create the reaction. So we have to look for observations. All right, in section 1, the production of a gas or a precipitate, a change in color or a change in temperature, which also shows a change in energy, is how we can identify a chemical reaction has happened. Number 2, energy may be absorbed in an endothermic reaction or it is released in an exothermic reaction. And then what is a chemical reaction? Well, it's basically when bonds are broken and new bonds may form. And then number 4 wanted to know how we could tell what was happening, and there was a precipitate that happened. Question 5 gave you a bunch of information and you had to determine what kind of reaction it was. And it was endothermic, and you could tell because the temperature dropped, and that was indicating that energy was absorbed by the reaction.